Hi everyone, I'm back again. This time I'm doing the Synastry chart between Taylor Swift and Travis. I've had so many people asking me about this relationship, and right now they're very overexposed, I think, in the media, but they're still in the honeymoon phase, and a lot of people are very enraptured by this whole relationship. So I'm going to get started on their compatibility chart and tell you exactly what I found. The first thing is his Venus conjuncts her Mars, 0 degrees. That is the tightest orb that you can get. And this signifies a very strong sexual attraction and a physical attraction. And you can see this playing out right now. Her Mars conjuncts his Venus. It would be better if his Mars was conjuncting her Venus, but in this case, it's her Mars, so I think that she has the power. Also, though, holding hands with his Venus, there's a bunch of different asteroids here. His Destin, Icarus, Sappho, Swift, that's her last name, PNA, and Pantasia conjuncts her Mars. So I'm going to break this down for you. Destin has to do with destiny. And also I failed to mention that all of these asteroids and his Venus is also conjuncting her ascendant. Now, her birth time had a Rodin rating of C, but I think this is accurate because it came from a book that it says Taylor Swift, The Untold Story, and her birth date's at 5:17 a.m. So I think that I'm going to go along with that birth time. Not every aspect in this Synastry chart is contingent on birth times, and the ones that are, I'm going to tell you. So specifically in this case, his Venus is conjuncting her ascendant with those asteroids, and it's in Scorpio. So he finds her extremely attractive to him. And that coincides with Venus conjuncting Mars. So back to the asteroids. Destin has to do with destiny. Icarus has to do with rash and impulsive behavior. So I think that not only is this relationship a destiny karmic connection, but I think he chased after her and he really wanted to get together with her. His Sappho, that has to do with highbrow eroticism. And you're seeing this play out right now. The honeymoon phase, the sexual attraction, the chemistry, it all ties into this whole aspect. Swift, the PNA, again, to me that's karmic and it's destiny. Fantasia, this is a fantasy sort of relationship that's coming into play. Now, all these asteroids not only conjunct her ascendant, but it's conjuncting her Alma asteroid, and that has to do with soul. So she's bringing soul as well into this relationship because it's conjuncting her Mars. His Vesta conjuncts her Mercury and Eros, 1 degree. Vesta has to do with a devotion and a reliability, and conjuncting her Mercury and Eros has to do with eroticism. So again, this ties into the Sappho asteroid that I just explained. So you're seeing this very strong connection again, and it's conjuncting her Mercury. So they've talked about this, and they probably told each other how the chemistry between them is very strong. Her Asmodeus and Union conjuncts his Lilith, 1 degree. And Asmodeus has to do with the demon of lust. And union is a togetherness. And since it's conjuncting his Lilith, 1 degree, that has to do with raw sexuality. So all of these aspects really tie in together as far as a very strong, lusty, sexual erotic combination, the energy between the two of them. Her James Bond conjuncts his Venus, 2 degrees. And Venus is a love planet, and James Bond is, I'm sure you know the character James Bond. So to me, this signifies that in the beginning, she really didn't trust his intentions and she didn't really know what his angle was. Maybe she checked up on him or did like a background check, so to speak, asking people, what do you think? What do you think his intentions are? So I think that's what this is what this asteroid conjuncting his Venus means. His Pholus and Sirius conjuncts her moon 1 degree, and this is based on her birth time. Sirius conjuncting her moon, this is very nice. Sirius is a love asteroid, and Pholus has to do with an explosion. So she feels this explosion of an unconditional sort of love from him. And since it's conjuncting her moon, very nice, because the moon is a very important luminary in a compatibility chart. Her Pholus conjuncts his night, 0 degrees. And again, there's this an explosion, and she feels like he is her knight in shining armor. And his knight, this is at 0 degrees. So that's the tightest orb that you can get. And he will have her back, and he will defend her. Her Jupiter conjuncts his lust, 2 degrees. Jupiter is the largest planet in the solar system, and it magnifies the energies of whatever it conjuncts. And since it's conjuncting his lust, again, self-explanatory, and it all ties into the dynamics of the aspects that I previously went over. Her Singer, Psyche, and Euterpe conjuncts his North Node. Very interesting. I've talked about the North Node so many times before in my other videos. And if you've watched those, you know that I've said that whatever conjuncts your North Node from the other person, that will signify the theme of the relationship, the basic theme. So it's important to pay attention to whatever conjuncts your North Node from the other person. And in this case, Singer. She's a singer. Psyche has to do with love, passion, and soul. And Euterpe has to do with songwriting. So the basic theme of the relationship for him is she's a singer and she has a lot of passion and love for her singing career and songwriting. And it can also mean that she brings him love, passion, and soul as well. Now I'm going to get to the flip side of the coin, because there is no such thing as a perfect relationship. Every couple has challenging aspects, and I'm going to get to the flip side of the coin. Now, this is very interesting because there's things that I found that is troublesome to me. Her Lacrimosa conjuncts his Sun, 1 degree, and Lacrimosa has to do with tears and crying, and it conjuncts his Sun by 1 degree, and that's a very tight orb and a very important luminary. So I think down the road, there's going to be issues involved here. I don't see them getting married. I didn't see any major indications of that in this Synastry chart. There's a possibility that there can be an engagement, but I think that something's going to happen, and I will get to that. So her Lacrimosa conjuncting his Sun, lots of tears and crying, which to me means that if anyone is going to end this relationship, it's going to be him, because her Apophis, Ascapulus, conjuncts his Mercury, 2 degrees. I have seen this aspect many times before. Apophis has to do with destruction, and Mercury is a thinking and talking planet. So there's going to be a destruction or a breakdown in communication between the two of them, and it's going to happen quite suddenly. J-Lo and Ben have this aspect in their chart, and they were engaged, and then they did not talk for 20 years. Prince Harry and his father have this aspect as well, and they are pretty much estranged. And I know this aspect personally because it happened to me with a very good friend of mine in college, and we did not talk for about 20 years as well. So what would be the reason for them to have a sudden breakdown in communication? Well, her Ascapulus conjuncts his Mercury as well. And Ascapulus has to do with talebearing, revealing of secrets, spying, eavesdropping, and gossiping. So there's a possibility that she might say something or reveal some sort of secrets or go too far in her communication in the future about the relationship. And he's just going to be, all right, that's it. We're done. Now, will this breakup be permanent? I don't know. It really depends on the rest of the chart because J-Lo and Ben ended up getting married, but look how long that took. In this instance, in the planetary department, they don't have any glue holding this relationship together. There's a lot of squares and oppositions, and I don't see this as a very long-term relationship. That's what the chart is telling me. Now, his Atropus and Lovus conjuncts her North Node. And Lovus has to do with sexual passion. And Atropus has to do with the cutter. Atropus was known for determining the life and death of someone, and scissors were involved, and all of a sudden there was a breakup or a cutting. That's what the energies are associated with in astrology. It could also mean transformation. However, Julia Roberts and Matthew Perry also had this aspect in their chart. Now his Sphinx conjuncts her Sun 1 degree. Very important luminary. And Sphinx has to do with a lack of commitment or not coming through in the way that you promised that you were going to, or there's going to be some sort of a disloyalty. There's going to be something there. And this also ties back to her Apophis conjuncting his Mercury. Sudden a disloyalty of some sort. And it has to do with communication. His Astarte also conjuncts her Sun 2 degrees. So Astarte has to do with arguments and blowups. There's going to be arguments between these two down the road concerning all of the interactions between the two of them regarding probably because they're so famous and something is going to happen. And I think that it's going to be revealed in the media, but not the way it really happened. Because like I said before, when something ends between celebrity couples, they don't really tell you the whole story. But this is what I'm seeing here. His Eleutheria conjuncts her Venus, and Venus is a personal planet and the love planet. So he likes his freedom. That's it's at 1 degree, so that's pretty tight. Now, this also goes back to my next aspect. This also goes back to what I was saying about the dissension that's coming up between the two of them, arguments, too much gossip, and tale-bearing. His Fortuna and Neptune conjuncts her Fama asteroid, 0 degrees. And Fama has to do with fame. His Fortuna and Neptune is conjuncting her Fama. So this means that he became a lot more famous since they got together. I didn't even know who he was, but everyone does now, even if you're not a football fan. But Neptune is involved, holding hands with Fortuna, conjuncting her Fama. So this means that, yes, he became a lot more famous. It's beneficial to his career, but it's not what he thinks it's going to be. So now I'm going to do some planetary aspects. The first thing I want to say about that is they don't have any moon-moon connections. I don't have his accurate time of birth, but I did go through, within a 12-hour period, I plugged in different birth times for him every 2 hours to see if it made any aspects to her moon at all, and it doesn't. And I think that if you don't have moon-moon aspects between the two of you, It's really not indicative of very long-term happiness, emotional happiness, and a soul-to-soul connection between two people. And like I said before, right now you're seeing a lot of sexy, erotic energy. It's the honeymoon phase. His Mars squares her Neptune 1 degree. This has to do with unrealistic expectations and the risk of illusion because of Neptune. If you're familiar with the energies of Neptune, you know how that plays out. And it's her Neptune squaring his Mars, so he finds her very mysterious and alluring. Also, his Uranus opposes her moon 0 degrees. And if her birth time is accurate, then I've talked about Uranus and the moon before. And in this instance, there's this unreliability and there's an excitement, an emotional excitement in the beginning. But over time, it breaks down and it becomes unreliable and you never know what to expect from the other person. And to me, this could coincide with the Astarte conjuncting the sun and also her Lacrimosa conjuncting his sun. And there's tears, crying, and arguments. I hope that, I was going to say I hope that I'm wrong about this, but the charts always play out. When is all of these energies going to come to light? I'm not really sure, but eventually it will. So I hope you enjoyed this interpretation, and I will be back soon with more Synastry charts. Hit the subscribe button and stay in the loop. Have a nice day.